So in this video, we're going to set up a web application. It's going to be pretty basic, but one of the parts that we're going to add is a web server that actually run our website or our web page. And so we're going to try to do all of this within Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to launch Visual Studio Code in that, and I'll give it a second to configure itself. So VS Code is opened. Still a little bit busy. Looks okay now. So we're going to create a folder, and to do that we go open folder first, and then while we're looking we're going to create it. So I'm going to create it on my Z var gist 7132. So I'm going to create it on my Z var gist 7132 workspace web. There it is there, workspace web. And so while I'm here, I'm going to make a folder real quick. New folder, M08. Done. Select it. We're kind of good to go. It's an empty folder, just not much in it yet. What we're going to do is add some files in. So the first thing we'll do is get the development web server installed. We're going to do a blend of, late 90s, early 2000 HTML, JavaScript kind of stuff. We're also going to use, which would be like first generation, but we're also going to use some second generation technology to actually run and test our web page. So the first thing we're going to do is open up a terminal, new terminal. It'll show up on the bottom here. And I'm just going to check, hey, do we have Node? So are we going to be using Node as a backend within our app? Not so much, but we do need a server. So we're going to borrow some Node technology to run our web server, which will let us test our page. So I'm just going to add the prompt, and notice it opens you up in your folder, which is exactly what we want. I'm going to go Node -- version to make sure Node's there. Found Node says we're on version 16.19.1, but it's not too bad. We're not too far behind the latest and greatest in that. One thing I need to do is initialize this, I guess, as a partial node project. And the partial node project is the web server that we're going to be running to test our web page. So the first thing I'll do is npm node package manager init to initialize -- and so it's going to make basically a package.json file. And so that's showing up there. I'm just going to click on that. So far that looks good. And then we're going to want our development server. And the development server that we are going to be using is here. This is the one we're using. Let's have it off screen. It's it's made from Node technology. It's just a simple HTTP server for serving up static web pages, which is basically what we're doing today. And that there are some interesting things. The defaults are a public directory, which is what we're going to take advantage of. You can put it up at the root, but then your root kind of gets bloated. When it fires up, it's going to fire up on localhost 8080. Caching's on by default. This is a killer. We actually got to turn it off, but they do say, hey, add a -C-1 to turn off caching. Anytime we make an edit to our JavaScript or our HTML, we want the browser to reload that for us. If we don't turn off caching, then we're always going to be running old code. It can be a very frustrating process. There is one more option to allow for cross-origin access. We're going to turn that on so we don't have a bunch of headaches later. And so how do we actually get this thing to work? Well, one, we have to install it. So I'm just going to put this off on the side. So first we have to get it installed. And so I'm going to go npm install. So I'm down here on the bottom. Oop, too many L's. HTTP -server. So that's the server I was showing you on that web page. Now it's going to download a bunch of Node libraries. And again, this really isn't the front end part of our web application. This is just a web server so we can test locally. So we don't have to FTP the files up and then refresh the page. And it should help with faster development. Probably the best one out there for doing this is Vite, but we'll use that later on. So we can't see it, but if I refresh this area, we can see there's a new directory here, and there's a bunch of things that got installed for us, and that's all the stuff it needs to run the web server. And so we're good there. We do need to add a script that will fire it up in that. So we're going to go to this script area. So this is the package JSON file, and we're going to go to the script area here and that, and we're going to basically add a script. Now go to the, in this case, a line of the end of line 7, comma. We're going to make a new script. It's already got some in there. A lot of people either start or dev. We'll go start to start the server. And the one we want to start is HTTP. HTTP. Sometimes this gets picked up. We'll see. And we want to run that, whoops, with a -c-1 double hyphen cores for cross origin and that. So now we don't have any web stuff in here, so we're going to take care of that shortly. One thing that this may not be turned on for you, npm scripts, you can see test. If it's not, go up to the top here. Usually it gets activated once you play around with your package.json file. But you click here and it might be that npm scripts is unchecked. So check it on, and then you'll get this little preview of all the different tests or development or scripts that you can run on your particular project. This one is meant to run the website. So what I want to do is copy over that public directory that we had previously. So in my mod 8 data folder on my home drive, there was a bunch of folders we copied over. One is called public. I'm going to right click on that and go copy. I'm actually going to right click on my package JSON and say reveal in File Explorer. That'll open up the File Explorer in this folder. And this is about the level I want to be, right? I want to be at the same level as node modules. I don't want to be too high up outside of mod 8, and I don't want to be down inside node modules. So I want to put it in here, so I'm going to paste it in. And so I have that public directory. And again, we're just following what they said here. Did that popping up? I'll get that to pop up. So what we're trying to do is to get, just follow the instructions here at the top, that if there's a defaults.public. And so if you have a public folder, that's where it's kind of going to mount the root of the web server to. Which means, where is your root? Which is a good question. Your root starts just under public. So the root of your website, ours is going to be localhost :8080/. After that, it gets mounted in to these folders and that. So we could actually could we run it from here? Let's find out, that sort of thing. We do have a fave icon in that. I'm not sure, you may not be able to see it on here because of the rendering settings, but we'll see if it shows up in Chrome. So I'm going to fire this up and we'll see in that. And then we'll see a message here that the server is up and running and ready. It looks like it's about to start. It's looking good in that. So usually you report what port is running on. It says it's on local 127.0.01 is localhost, so localhost 8080. So I'm going to go over here, or you can go start and type in Chrome. I'm going to launch Chrome. Oops. Do that again. So I will launch Chrome, and I'm going to type in localhost :8080. Okay. So one thing, our fave icon's working. Because we don't have an index page yet, it's just giving a directory listing, which is okay. I mean, that means we got to the site and it's up and running. So what we'll do is we will create an index file. Okay, so let's get that done real quick. And so how do we do that? We're just going to put it in the right spot. So on public, so click on public. That means you're on that folder, and then go new file. And we'll go index.html. In here, I'm going to type doc and go enter. It kind of gives you a little stub of an HTML file. I'm going to get rid of these two little meta tags here. Don't want them right now. Okay, I'll change the title of the document. I'll call it well, I'll call it mod 08. And here in the body, I'll do an h1 tag, and I'll go gist 7132 module 08. Now that looks good. I have autosave on, so it should be saving. But the thing is Chrome going to be aware of these changes? So hold the control key down. So control key down and hit the refresh button, and it picked it up. So it picked up the title, which gets put up into the tab, right, mod 8, and it picked up my h1 tag. So what we're going to do now is add a little bit more, content to our index page. Sometimes just refreshing might work on the HTML side. Sometimes you'll have to hold the control key down and hit refresh, usually to get the JavaScript files to load in that. So what we'll do is we're going to continue on and basically add some more code here. So what we'll do here is after our heading, we're going to enter a form tag. Okay, it doesn't have an action yet, and we'll add a button. And we have a button. So what we'll do is we're going to go over and basically refresh the page. Right, tiny button. Right, no, I didn't hold the control key on that one. Only if you try to do a regular refresh. If it doesn't feel like it picked up your changes, do the control refresh. Now, what you can do is you can add some text to the button. Click me. You can have autosave on. This should be on by default. We will go back and we will refresh in there. Now, something you might not see, watch up in here. Watch up in this title part. Watch this button. Right? You might notice that it changed to an X a little bit. So, what's technically happening? We're getting a page refresh, which means that this button is actually submitting this form because there's no action that cycles back to this particular page again. So what we can do is actually change this to, well, what type of button are you? So we can change the type of button. And you can be a button, which may not make too much sense. Menu, reset, and submit. So submit is actually what was happening. That was the default action, that if you're the only button on a form, you're the submit button. But we're going to tie this to some JavaScript later on. So we just want this to be button. Now again, we'll go back. I'll bring this forward, refresh the page. And now when we click, we're not triggering a refresh because we're not triggering a submit of the form. And so that's getting pretty close to what we want to do. And so what we'll do shortly is actually tie some JavaScript to this. So what I'll do is I'll put it in a script tag. And then this is going to be where I switch from HTML to JavaScript code. So we have this in PHP and Java server pages and active server pages as well, where you can flip from HTML to code. And so this is how we flip into code. I'm going to make a function called hello. I'll call it hello. And then put my braces in. And then I'm going to run the alert. It's like a message box. And the message I will put in there is welcome to JST 7132. Now, some people like to leave the bracket up. Some people like to drop it down flush and then indent. So I like to drop the bracket because then they line up visually. And that. So that the thing is, will that work? Right? That sort of thing. So let's first go back to the page, hit a refresh. Right? Click me. Nothing's happening. So the first thing we want to do is make this a little bit bigger to see what's going on. I remembered I was in here before. And so when things aren't working, the best thing to do is get into the debugger. Both Firefox and Chrome have them. I'm just going to right click. You typically get there by inspecting the site and that. So elements is usually the HTML breakdown. And that we don't have a very complex document, but you can see as I hover over stuff on the side, different parts of the page get highlighted in that. And so the idea is, like, when I click, right? So if I can expand that, there's the button, right? Click me. So there's the button. You can see it highlighted there. Okay. So why isn't anything happening, right? That was our problem. Let's go over to sources. If this is not loaded, click on index. The only place we really have code right now is in our index.html file. There it is. And there's the script. And so you can actually put a breakpoint in here and then see why isn't this happening? And we're not even entering this function. And then mainly that's because we have not hooked up the function to the button. So let's go back to Visual Studio Code. And just after the button, I'll put a space in there. I'm going to go on click. There it is in the list. I'll grab it. And I want it to run the hello function. Now sometimes it might pick this up, control spacebar. Okay, control spacebar forced it. Pick up hello. Now that's the difference between that's an unlit firecracker. I need a lit one. So the thing is, when someone clicks this button, run this right away. So that's like lighted. And that. But that's always a question, do I light the firecracker here or not? In this case, we need it lit because when someone clicks the button, immediately you run the hello function. Don't run it at a later date. Run it right away. So that's saved, but we still need to go back and refresh. So I'm going to do with, okay, no control button. Oh, the on click changed. Good. And that, so it's not getting cached. Now if I click it here, notice it stopped me here. So this is a breakpoint. And so I'm stopped in the code, and then I would have to step over it for it to activate. And there I see the message pop up. So that part is actually working. So happy about that. So you'll get used to the debugger. Another place to look is the console to see if there's any output from the program. Not everyone likes popping messages to the user, so they write to the console instead. So that's a little change that we can do. I'll close this, and we'll go back. And instead of doing this, so it's a // to comment out in JavaScript, I will go console .log, and I will log the same message. But the idea here is don't pop up a message to the user to disrupt their flow or mess around with them having to click on the interface. You can log out messages to the console, and then we just need to find where they go. And so let's go back. We will need to refresh the page. It's refreshed. Click me, click me, click me. No more message was popping up before. So let's go right click, inspect. We can go to sources, click on here. Probably gonna have to refresh it to get it to load. There is the console.log. Welcome to GST 7010, so it's there. Did we actually get there is the question. We'll want to go over to the console and take a look, right? So we'll click it in that. So we're right there, console.log, and that, about to do it. Okay, that felt good, and we're back in there. And so did anything really happen? Oh, there's the message. Okay, now what we'll do is we'll take out that breakpoint. Let's take it out, and I'll go back to elements. I'm going to click this a couple more times. Ooh, the debugger's still on. I'll go continue, and that I'll click it one more time. Okay. Is there anything else happening in console? Notice that it doesn't reprint the message. If it sees the same message, it just says, "Oh, this is the 4th time that this message has popped out." A little bit different. There's also a console drawer, I believe, in that show console drawer. It's the same console, and that it's down here on the bottom, and that can we make that bigger? Yeah, no thanks. And so you can see it down below as well if you're not if you don't want to switch tabs. So the idea is that if you were focused on the Elements tab and you don't want to switch to the console and back and forth, you can have it as a drawer on the bottom so it's always visible. This can be helpful. Okay, so that, but basically we have a button, and we're able to have it call JavaScript code and have messages either pop up as alert boxes or have them written to the console as well.